Our second speaker, Pindiwe Tikwayo, will be speaking from the pathway leadership development, and this will be her third speech on this pathway. I would like to call on who is an evaluator that will share with us the purpose and the objectives of her speech. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Toastmaster, and good evening, everybody. And Pindiwe will be talking, as you indicated, on the second speech on the evaluation and feedback. So the purpose of this project is for the member to present speech on any topic, to receive feedback and apply the feedback to a second speech. So this is that second speech. So the purpose of the speech is for her to demonstrate that she has applied the feedback received from her first speech. So I'll therefore be looking exactly for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, fellow Toastmasters and guests, please help me welcome Pindiwe Tikwayo with a speech entitled, "The Hills That Shadow Your Greatness." The hills that shadow your greatness, Pindiwe Tikwayo.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is always nice and appreciated when someone presents information that they believe is valuable, to also lay out in the table the unattractive side of what they're presenting to you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason I'm here today. In my last speech, I spoke about discovering your full potential. If you missed it, I hope you're encouraged to never miss a meeting. I felt like I needed to conclude that subject and speak about the habits that one needs to let go of to overcome, to reach their greatness. And these I call the hills that shadow your greatness. When I thought about this, 4 main culprits came to mind. And the first is self-doubt. Self-doubt is when you doubt and lack confidence in your skills and abilities to accomplish something. You know what you want and where to get to, but you cloud that by the lack of confidence in your abilities to get there. I've identified that I've got a very low confidence on impromptu speeches. Usually when I'm put on the spot to share my thoughts on a subject, especially something that I'm unfamiliar with, my heart starts pounding because I worry I may say something that might undermine my intelligence. But you know what's good from that is that I'm aware of it and I'm doing something about it. I'm a member of ex-Toastmasters and have you to hold me accountable on table topics. Although I hope I don't regret saying that. Next is perfectionism. Perfectionism can be easily identified by overthinking things, overanalyzing situations, and wanting things to be perfect before you can be satisfied. Perfectionism can lead into indecisiveness and a source of stress. It can hold you prisoner to it. If you are tempted and you find yourself that you keep procrastinating things and find that you overanalyze things, then you are tempted to perfectionism. Because perfectionism is something to be aware of. If, for an example, you find that you have a tendency of starting things and not complete them, then that is a red flag of perfectionism. If you realize that you find you always complain about not having enough time, yet you have tasks that you can delegate to other people, but you strongly feel that you have to be the one doing those tasks, that is another indication of perfectionism. All you need to identify is it is to welcome help from other people and see it as means of buying yourself more time to do more priority work stuff. And remember, the best that you have to give at any given moment is perfect with its imperfections. And next is fear. Fear can be fear of anything that holds you back from taking action. It could be fear of failure. At Toastmasters, we learn to embrace failure because we take it as a learning. A typical example would be from our second last meeting, where we saw that we can easily fail graciously. All we need to do is identify the creative ways of bouncing back. But most importantly, what I witnessed from that day was the power of teamwork. You can rely on your support system to catch you when you fall. I'll spare you the details so that you are curious to keep coming back to the meetings. And also, here we have esteemed speakers to learn from, not to compare ourselves with. It may be easy for us beginners and possible our guests to look at them and see how effortlessly they make it seem to present their speeches. Yes, I'm sure they would attest that it hasn't been easy. It took time, effort, and practice to get to where they are, and possibly a few failures along the way. And finally is procrastination. Procrastination is when you keep putting off what you're supposed to do for a later time. I like to borrow Mpumile Dwaba's definition of procrastination, that it is an arrogant assumption that God owes you another day to do what you didn't do the other day. Procrastination can be a fruit of the other three traits I've mentioned, which is in my case, it would be easy for me to keep putting off participating on impromptu speeches and table topics because of my lack of confidence in them. But sometimes it is purely from laziness when you keep putting off what you need to be doing. For an example, with me for this speech, I kept putting off writing my thoughts down because I was simply too lazy to think. When I find myself in that procrastination cycle, what I do, although not always an automatic switch, I think about the feeling that I will feel once the task is completed. If the task at hand is big and overwhelming, what I do is I break it down into small, achievable actions that I can start acting on and tick off and celebrate in the end. To summarize my points, I want to borrow from the words of Mr. Roy T. Bennett and modify it a bit and say, to overcome the hills that shadow your greatness, do not let self-doubt, procrastination, perfectionism, and fears in your mind push you around, but be led by the dreams in your heart, Mr. Toastmaster.
Pindi, thank you so much for sharing with us the hills that shadows our greatness. And that's what I appreciate about Toastmasters, that even though a speaker would share their personal reflection, there's some elements of that speech that definitely resonates with us.
The speakers were motivating and inspirational. I think we're learning a lot from them. And some of their speeches, you know, when you think that, hey, this one is like she's speaking to me now, like Pindi's speech.
No, Pindi did a rocking job. I mean, like she was flames there.
Yeah.
When she said what was it, procrastination, I was like, oh, is it that what it means? Oh my word, that definition knocked me over. Eh? So Pindi must put
Yes.
Pindi must put that into the chat so we can have that as well. Pindi, if you don't mind.
Yes,
the
please.
definition of procrastination, I loved how that was you articulated it really nicely.
The meeting is so informative and it's educational. I also connected a lot with Pindi's speech. You know, with her personality, I think I can relate to her. You know, in terms of the fear that you would have if you have to speak. you'll find that you know the answer, but you're just scared to speak. But now listening to her, you know, it's like, yeah, she was never like that, because she, you know, it came out very well. I enjoyed the speech. So I'm also hopeful that I'll be there.
Next up, we will go over to our second evaluator. So now we'll ask Mike to give us feedback on Pindi's speech. Over to you.
Good evening, everybody once more, especially Pindiwe. The hills that shadow your greatness. What a title. From the beginning, you had a good attention grabbing and smooth introduction to your speech, with clarity of delivery that does very well for interesting listening. How you making it basically easily made everyone actually pay attention. And then the use of gestures, which were very well measured. Though because you were sitting down, they were mainly limited to the use of your hands. You just need to be careful of the trap of continuous repetitiveness of some of the gestures. Like, for instance, in most instances, you tended to gesture around and then go back to holding your hands, which you actually tended to do repetitive. So it wasn't bad. I think it's something that you need to watch out for. And you also had a very nice introduction of prompts, a number of them as you went through the speech. But you just need to manage the quantity, because they can get too much and tend to be a bit destructive if you're actually using a lot of them as you go. Try to at least use at most like 3. And in terms of the construct of your sentences, I think you actually executed that quite well, because as one of the areas that were pointed out in the previous feedback, I think you attended to that aspect very well. And you also did this very nicely as you also stuck to your topic, which is also something that was actually brought to your attention to attend to previously. And as you were approaching the closing of your speech, I actually liked the way you actually summarized your main points and winding down nicely to your close. What you can also consider stretching yourself into is basically standing up and to try to see how you can manage to control the pacing that was actually picked up in the previous speech, where you were basically swaying from side to side, because it's one other area that you need to actually look into going forward. Otherwise, overall, Pindi, you responded very well to the feedback in the previous speech that was given in the previous speech, and you also addressed the aspects that were highlighted very well. And so you've basically met the objectives of this project. Well done, and congratulations as you go forward. Thank you.